CNN's Jim Acosta, whose White House credentials have been suspended, we'll get to that in a few moments, isn't the only journalist to draw harsh words from President Trump. At the same news conference, he hit back at Yamiche Alcindor of PBS NewsHour.
You called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying
I don't know why you'd say that. It's such a racist
There
question.
are some people.
What you said is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
And speaking with reporters Friday, the president unloaded on CNN White House correspondent Abby Phillip.
Do you want him to rein in Robert Mueller?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
And after repeatedly telling radio reporter and CNN contributor April Ryan to sit down when she tried to interrupt at the presser, Trump brought her up on Friday as well.
The same thing with April Ryan. I watch her get up. I mean, you talk about somebody that's a loser. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She gets publicity, and then she gets a pay raise, or she gets a contract with, I think, CNN. But she's very nasty.
Molly, President regularly rips the media, but these highly personal insults against those asking questions, stupid, nasty, racist, seem to go to a new level.
Yeah, he seemed to be in rare form this week, even for someone who regularly criticizes the press. And we have just a massive problem here. We have a president who's getting more personal in his insults against reporters, and we have a press corps that is responding by decreasing their journalistic standards. I mean, I don't think this week was a good week for journalism, and it wasn't a good week for presidential rhetoric either, and the American public loses out. We're not getting good questions. We're not getting questions that have fair assumptions. We're not getting a press corps that even respects the office. We know they hate the president, but do they respect the office at all? And then you have him behaving this way. It's just very frustrating to watch.
Well, I wouldn't say that all journalists hate the president, and I think some of the questions at the news conference, which went on for 90 minutes about, were good. But, Susan, I always say the president has every right to push back against what he sees as unfair coverage. But when he told Abby Phillips, a former Washington Post reporter, she'd asked a stupid question, it wasn't. It was a question about Whitaker's impact on the Mueller investigation, which was the news of the day. And then he made clear that he just didn't like her.
Well, I've had plenty of people tell me I ask dumb questions, and they say it to me in front of groups of reporters and chew me out based on the publication I work for. And I've seen it happen to other reporters on Capitol Hill.
So doesn't make it right.
No, but it happens. And I think what he was saying is he's fed up with people questioning him about what his effort is to control the Mueller investigation, which he doesn't think is legitimate in the first place. You know, you saw the frustration the president had. I think what he's expressing is frustration that the questions seem to be questioning his integrity. And I think that was what you saw at the press conference with the first question about white nationalism and then about Mueller. I think there was a sort of I'm fed up quality to the way the president was responding to the press this week, which is the most adversarial press for any president that we have seen in our time. And that's the dynamic here.
Before I get to you, Adrienne, let me play a response from Yamiche Alcindor. She was a former New York Times reporter who now works for PBS NewsHour, as I mentioned. Here's what she had to say after that tough exchange with the president.
What I was doing was posing a question, which is what reporters are going to do. And again, I go back to the fact that there was a white nationalist today tweeting about being at the White House today. So my question was timely, and it was fair, and it was what I do.
Now, plenty of critics, especially on CNN, but also elsewhere, have pointed out that these three women in 3 days, Yamiche Alcindor, April Ryan, Abby Phillip, are African-American women. And now, obviously, the president has slammed plenty of white males and others, but this was noticeable because it happened in such a compressed period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not lost on anyone that the fact that these are 3 women, 3 African-American women, and they are all 3 very, very good reporters. I've worked with all 3 of them throughout my years in this business, and I cannot say enough great things about them. So it's hard to look at what the president did in his conduct this week and decipher anything differently except for the fact that he is attacking these women because they are black and perhaps because they are women.
Oh my goodness, that is absolutely. I mean, that's the most famous altercation he had was with Jim Acosta, who's a white male, followed up by the next.
Why is he going after 3 women this week who are
The idea
African-American?
that I mean, it's ludicrous. But I want to also say something about Yamiche Alcindor's claim right there. She was saying that there was a white nationalist tweeting from the White House. Well, I think that's true, but it was a public tour he was at, like meaning someone
she was asking a very legitimate question.
And then to say, actually, I don't think so. I mean,
it was
we have
timely.
3 problems with the question. One, she doesn't understand what national interest is, or her question reflects a misunderstanding of national interest. There's the bias against national interest, and then there's the desire to paint everything Donald Trump does as racist. These are problems in the assumptions of questions, and they don't serve the public, because it is a really interesting thing that we have someone who cares so much about national interest. That's a very newsworthy thing.
But I at least give her credit for asking the question respectfully, and she didn't say, I believe that you're a white nationalist. She said there had been criticism, as there has. But you said something that I can't let go, and that is, look, I understand why people, critics of the president, will say, wow, he seems to get very personal when it comes to certain black people he doesn't like. Omarosa called a dog. I get all that. You said he criticized them because they are black.
Well, okay,
you don't know that.
Well, I don't know that, but then why is he going after 3 women who are both African American this week? Why is he constantly attacked African American women? It is a bias that he has had, that he has shown throughout his presidency. We saw it during the campaign as well.
They're asking, like April Ryan, for example, who's really set herself up as someone who challenges the president constantly,
and then she does on racially charged issues.
And she does, and then she does go on TV and talk about it as a paid policy pundit. So he's making a legitimate point here. But
Abby Phillip asked about the Mueller investigation.
And by the way, Abby Phillip said, "Are you trying to do something illegitimate with the Mueller investigation?" That was the nature of the question she asked here, and I think that's the frustration you see with the president.
It's the assumption going into this. We have people who say we're literally going to let the Mueller probe go until we find something, despite the fact that we have covered this for 2.5 years and have nothing. I mean, at some point, reporters' questions should reflect
because Robert Mueller has the freedom to take as long as he needs to take to get to the end of this investigation.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. You're criticizing the substance of the questions, which is fine, but loser, stupid.
That's my complaint.
I mean, there is that side of it.
Particularly when he has the upper ground by challenging the content of the questions.
By the way, Trump also said at the presser that he'd like the tone of his relations with the media to improve, but he thinks the media should go first. I think that's now out the window, especially with the president saying he might yank other people's credentials, other journalists' credentials, and this is Jim Acosta, which we'll get to. By the way, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff said to HBO on Axios that he's planning an investigation of Trump abusing his power versus the media. He mentioned CNN and the Washington Post. This is what happens, or could happen, or will happen when you have a Democratic House. Thanks to all of you, Adrienne Elrod, Susan Frischel, Molly Hemingway.